It is getting normal and normal that people having multiple income streams, doing multiple side hustling just to get a little bit more money by the end of the month. It is also kind of a push by loads of videos on the YouTube right now, which is quite useful, that teaches people how to get, multiple side incomes, how to encouraging people to get multiple income streams, especially the passive one. Those tricks and tips and hints will eventually lead people to the ultimate financial freedom gateway, that people will no longer need to work 9-to-5 jobs, and with the click of a button they will get a lot of money by the end of the month. But that's pretty much the point of it. But I think there's also one thing that's pretty important that people rarely talks about, that is the hustle traps, that reducing your attention span. I'm pretty much the victim of it. For the past 3 years since COVID, I've been doing multiple side incomes or side hustling just to get a little bit of money by the end of the month. Currently, when I'm doing this YouTube video, I have, just showcase to you, I have 1 laptop, 2 laptops, and then 2 phones, plus the phone I'm recording right now, which is representative of what my kind of side hustling about. And every morning I have 5 things that constantly need my attention of, which eventually reducing my attention span because I'm no longer able to focus each task effectively, right? So in this video, I would like to share to you about these hustle traps which reducing the attention span, and as a victim out of it, how I'm trying to raise this as awareness so that people actually knows what's going on, and my experience of how I kind of recovered from it. But prior before that, we'll talk about that in a minute, but prior before that, we just talk about the first thing of the first chapter of this video, which is the signs of attention. When we talk about attention, it's the constant barrage of tasks and information. If we took too much of that, we will eventually lose the effectiveness of attention that we can focus for particular tasks. And eventually we used to think that doing a lot of things at the same time seems like a good productivity tools or good productivity action on going forward, because we're still doing a lot of things. But this is not actually, and every time you swap attention to another task, your brain has to rewire and refocus into another task. Eventually this kind of became you just scrolling TikTok videos mindlessly, and this actually not helping at all. And this happens to me ever since a year ago, where I'm trying to resolve. It's pretty important to understand that what's the attention span and then the factors that influence it as well, which we just mentioned, that if you have a lot of things happening at the same time, that's pretty much the reason that affecting it. And losing that attention span is quite a serious problem, because every time you have a new task, like when I have a new client that require new requirements that I never met before, I found out it's very hard for me to spend a considerable amount of time to work on the task itself, which I think it's not helpful basically. So that's really the signs of tensions that I'm trying to talk about. This leads to the effects of overworking as well, which I think because of we having multiple 5 different side hustlings at the same time, each of them require a significant amount of attention out of it. Eventually you just lose that attention. I think by the time you're losing that attention overall, you just felt like you couldn't finish the tasks at the right time, or you couldn't deliver a quality work for your client as well. And then what happened to that, what happened to you or happened to myself is that it will lead to anxiety, depressions, and ultimately a burnout, with all 3 of them happening to me over the last years. It took me considerably amount of time to recover from that and to think about it, what happened to myself, why I couldn't be productive, why I couldn't work 10 tasks at the same time, and why, even though there are tons of money coming in, I just still felt like I'm not getting enough of it. This is literally the effects of overworking. Understanding what's the signs of tensions, and then the second one is effects of overworking. It just strikes me so hard that after understanding this, which I'll talk about in a minute, how I resolved that as improvement. But if you're watching this video right now at this minute, this probably already happened to you, and I think it's time to put a whole stops and find a solution out of that. After we talk about the effects of overworking, the third one is the real life implications. And you already know that what's a real life implication can happen, because if you have a shorter attention span, when you have tasks that require a longer attention span, it will ultimately affect the performance. Different examples that as a DevOps engineers or cloud engineers require to learn or pick up on new skills probably once in a while, once per 6 months, or new coding skills or new algorithms that we need to code. Ever since last year, I just found out very hard to focus to learn the new technologies. I constantly look at that list of technologies and then I just ank myself, and I just constantly wanted to jump into new tasks. And this is a serious problem that's affecting my performance, full-time jobs, and ultimately hustle myself out of job as well, which is quite serious. And all the long-term consequences also as well, I think. It's not just career progression, I get affected as well. I think mental health, where I'm no longer able to hold conversations longer than probably 30 seconds. Then after that, I just go to somewhere else. Somehow people think this is ADHD issues, but it's not. I think if you work too much of things at the same time, once you're understanding the signs of attentions and then the effects of overworking, the implication out of it, then it eventually also leads that you couldn't enjoy your hobby ever again. So I think as a victim myself, again just using myself like an example, because I've been working on different stuff all the time, it just happened to me that I could no longer enjoy my favorite movies, my favorite games, and it just started me because ever since last year when this happens to me, I had the realization that I need something to change. Plus, you might be wondering, so if I'm talking about all those side hustling, then why I'm doing YouTube videos? In the future, I'll release a video about how making YouTube videos improving my attention span. But currently, new hobbies or having, not considering YouTube as a work anymore. I just considering YouTube as a kind of mental health recoveries. Basically, I've talked into the phone, and then after that, I edit my videos and so on. I kind of trying to share my experience here, with eventually making myself slightly better, I would say. So lastly is pretty much the thing that I think everyone's been wanting to hear about, is the strategies for improvement to avoid the hustle traps so that you retain a little bit of your attention span. Then I think rather than just stop working completely, then I think the first thing for me, what I did was I marked down my calendars, what I actually spend time the most. Is that the most priority stuff I need to spend? And then secondly, what things that I've been spending time the most, which is the least priority one as well. Having these two things written out and understanding that, which eventually allow me to stop doing things that is not important. Sound cringy, but I also didn't believe that until I have my own notions as the second brain, or whatever you call it. I list down my activities, I do journaling nowadays. Now all these little steps helps in helping myself to increase my mental health a little bit better and increase my attention span a little bit better as well. My current attention span is a lot better than last year's, just taking this one step, because I just realized that I can't hold conversation with my friends, my colleagues, and whenever I jump the conversation, then all of a sudden I just realize I'm doing some other side hustles which are not related to that context. The next one is mindfulness and wellness, which is part of the strategics to improvement. Right, I think exercises important, because exercises when you're in the gym, do not bring your phone to the gym, don't even bring any music into that as well. Literally just go for the gym. If you're having a 1 hour session, that's 1 hour full attention, but doing just the gym. Eventually you will improve kind of mental wellness, attention span, and you're able to focus in difficult tasks again. That's what I've been doing for the past 2 years or past 6 months, and it's been drastically improved that problem. And then lastly, loads of technology tools that will help us as well to improve our focus. One of them is lockdown, is just lock yourself in just one devices and do not open up Chrome, YouTube, any social medias, any tasks that are related to other side hustles. You have a time lock. You just spend 2 hours on this side hustles or for this client, and then after that, do not look at it until tomorrow morning. It works for me. Sometimes doesn't, because some of the clients do have that needy requirements that require you to reply as soon as possible. You cannot not to reply because they're one of your biggest clients, so you have to reply. But overall, that's one of the continuous reasons that's how I continually improve my attention span. And the conclusion is pretty straightforward, is that ultimately what I'm trying to say is doing multiple side hustles would reduce your attention span, and what that leads to is that you wouldn't able to control or focus important things for important client, and you just wouldn't spend enough time for one client, probably your most important client. And this is pretty important, pretty dangerous, I would say, because ultimately, if you lose that attention span, it's very hard to build it up again. And I'm a victim myself, and I'm trying to reduce my side hustles. It doesn't mean that I don't want my money. I do want my money, but I try to do the side hustles in a meaningful way. Ultimately, I think the way to improve my attention span again is just do one task at a time, focus, do more exercises, and ultimately also do a time locked, so you just focus on one thing, which again, focus on one task, the same thing I just repeat myself, but you get what I'm trying to say. It's probably another crappy videos, but I'm trying to express myself a little bit better. You can see that my attention span is quite low. I couldn't even focus more than 5 minutes, and then I have to look at the script and things like that. But if you think that you suffer the same problem as me, so leave your comments down below. We can share some of the ideas around it. We can talk about it. And if you kind of like this video and going forward, just give me a subscribe and like the video as well.